The Ritz-Carlton in San Francisco had never seen a wedding like this. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Golden Gate Bridge. White roses cascaded from every column, and a string orchestra played softly as 400 guests took their seats. Everything gleamed with the kind of perfection that only unlimited money could buy. This was the wedding of the year. Tech mogul Daniel Hartfield was marrying off his only daughter, and the world was watching. But at the altar, 24-year-old Emma Hartfield felt like she was drowning. The bodice of her dress was too tight. The weight of the diamond tiara, her father insisted she were made her head throb. And as she looked down the aisle at her fiancé, Derek Somerset, all she could think was, do I even know this man? Daniel Hartfield had built his fortune in Silicon Valley, turning a small software company into a tech empire worth $8 billion. At 62, he was still sharp, still hungry for control. He'd orchestrated this marriage like a business merger. Derek came from East Coast oil money, the kind of family that opened doors even billions couldn't buy. This wedding wasn't about love. It was about legacy. Emma had learned early that her opinion didn't matter. She'd been groomed her entire life to be the perfect heiress. Private schools, charity galas, strategic friendships. Derek had been her father's choice, presented to her 2 years ago at a fundraiser. He's perfect for you, her father had said, and Emma had smiled and nodded because that's what she always did. In the back of the ballroom, Rosa Martinez adjusted her catering uniform and kept her eyes down. She'd worked for the Hartfield family for 15 years, ever since she'd immigrated from Mexico. Rosa saw everything. The arguments behind closed doors, the tears Emma tried to hide, the way Daniel spoke to his daughter like she was a business asset instead of a person. And Rosa had noticed something else. She'd seen the texts Emma quickly deleted. The late-night phone calls Emma took in the garden. The way Emma's hands shook whenever Derek touched her. And then there was Diane Hartfield, Daniel's ex-wife, Emma's mother. She disappeared 10 years ago after a devastating divorce. Daniel had used his lawyers and his money to erase her, ensuring she had no contact with Emma. The official story was that she'd abandoned them, that she'd chosen money over her daughter in the settlement. But Rosa had been there that day. She knew the truth. Diane had been forced out, threatened, silenced. And for 10 years, Emma believed her mother didn't love her. The ceremony was about to begin. Emma stood in the bridal suite, staring at herself in the mirror. Her makeup artist had left. The photographer had gotten his shots. She was alone for the first time all day. And in that silence, panic clawed at her throat. I can't breathe, she whispered to her reflection, then a knock at the door. Rosa entered with a glass of water. Miss Emma, are you all right? Emma's eyes filled with tears. Rosa, what if this is all wrong? What if I'm making a terrible mistake? Rosa's heart broke. She wanted to tell Emma everything she knew. But she had a family to feed, and Daniel Hartfield destroyed anyone who crossed him. Only you know what's in your heart, Mija. Before Emma could respond, her father entered. It's time. You look beautiful. He offered his arm, his smile tight and calculated. This is everything we've planned for. Don't mess this up. The doors opened. The orchestra swelled. Emma took her father's arm and began the walk down the aisle, each step feeling like she was walking toward the edge of a cliff. Derek waited at the altar, handsome in his tuxedo, smiling that practiced smile she'd seen 1,000 times. Did he love her? Did she love him? Did it even matter? The officiant began. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. Emma's vision started to blur. The room felt too hot, too crowded. She could feel everyone's eyes on her, 400 people watching her perform the role she'd been rehearsing her entire life. And then the doors at the back of the ballroom burst open that a woman walked in, and the entire room fell silent. She wore a simple black dress, her dark hair pulled back, her face lined with a decade of pain and determination. She wasn't dressed for a wedding. She wasn't invited, but she walked down that aisle like she owned it. Diane Hartfield had come home. Daniel's face went white as a sheet. Security, he hissed, but his voice came out as a whisper. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Emma turned and saw her mother for the first time in 10 years. The floor tilted, the room spun, and Emma collapsed, her white dress pooling around her like a falling cloud. Chaos erupted. Guests jumped to their feet. Derek rushed to Emma's side, but Rosa got there first, cradling Emma's head. "Someone call a doctor." Diane kept walking until she stood at the altar, facing her ex-husband. "Hello, Daniel. How dare you?" Daniel's voice shook with rage. "You have no right to be here." "Security. I have every right." Diane's voice was steady, cold. "I'm her mother, and I'm here to stop you from destroying her life the way you destroyed mine." Emma was coming to, Rosa helping her sit up, but she couldn't take her eyes off her mother. "Mom." Her voice was small, broken. "You left me." Diane's eyes filled with tears. "No, baby. I didn't leave you. He took you from me." She turned to Daniel. Tell her how you threatened to have me declared unfit. How you said you'd make sure I never saw her again if I didn't sign away my rights. How you paid off judges and lawyers and anyone who might help me." "That's a lie," Daniel shouted, but his voice cracked. "Is it?" Diane pulled an envelope from her purse. "I have the settlement agreement. I have the threats your lawyers made in writing. I have bank records showing the payoffs. I've spent 10 years gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment." She looked at Emma, and when I heard about this wedding, I knew I couldn't wait anymore. Emma stared at her father. "Is that true? Did you keep her from me?" Daniel's face was red, his hands clenched into fists. "I did what was necessary to protect you. She was going to take everything. I didn't want your money." Diane's voice finally broke. "I wanted my daughter. I would have lived in a cardboard box if it meant being in her life." Rosa stood up suddenly. All eyes turned to her. She'd stayed silent for 15 years, but not anymore. "She's telling the truth, Miss Emma. I was there. I heard the lawyers. I saw your father threaten her. And I've watched you suffer ever since, thinking your mother abandoned you." The room was dead silent. 400 guests sat frozen, witnessing the unraveling of one of San Francisco's most powerful families. But Diane wasn't finished. She turned to Derek. "And you? Do you want to tell Emma who you really are? Or should I?" Derek's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Really?" Diane pulled out her phone, showing photos to the crowd. "This is Derek Somerset in Las Vegas 3 months ago, with his actual fiancée, the woman he's been engaged to for 5 years. She swiped through more photos. They have a child together, a 3-year-old daughter. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Emma felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. "What?" Derek's mask finally slipped. "You don't understand. My family lost everything in bad investments. You needed my father's money." Emma finished, her voice hollow. She looked at Derek with new eyes, seeing him clearly for the first time. "This whole thing was a setup. You were never going to marry me. You were just going to take the money and run." "I hired a private investigator when I heard about the engagement," Diane said. "It took 3 weeks to find out everything about him. Your father never bothered to check because Derek's last name was good enough for him." Daniel sank into a chair, his empire crumbling. For the first time in his life, he had no control. No lawyers to call. No money to throw at the problem. Just the wreckage of what he'd done. Emma stood up, Rosa steadying her. She looked at her mother, really looked at her. 10 years of lies. 10 years of believing she wasn't loved. And her mother had been fighting for her the entire time. "Mom," Emma's voice cracked. "I'm so sorry. I should have known. I should have known." Diane crossed to her daughter and pulled her into her arms. "This isn't your fault. None of this is your fault." Emma sobbed into her mother's shoulder, 10 years of pain pouring out. The guests sat in stunned silence. Derek tried to leave, but several guests blocked his way. Someone had already called the police about the fraud. Rosa watched it all with tears streaming down her face. Finally, the truth was out. Emma pulled back from her mother and looked around the ballroom, at the flowers, the guests, the expensive perfection of it all. And then she laughed. It started as a small sound, but grew into something wild and free. "This is insane. This whole thing is insane." Diane smiled through her tears. "What do you want to do, baby? Right now, in this moment, what do you actually want?" Emma looked at her father, broken in his chair. At Derek, exposed and cornered. At the 400 guests who came for a show and got a scandal. And for the first time in 24 years, Emma Hartfield made a choice that was entirely her own. "I want to leave. I want to walk out of here with you and never look back." "Then let's go." Diane took her daughter's hand. As they walked down the aisle together, Rosa called out, "Miss Emma, wait." She hurried over with Emma's purse. "Your passport, your credit cards, everything you need." She'd been prepared for this, hoped for this. Emma hugged Rosa fiercely. "Come with us, please. You've been more of a mother to me than anyone." Rosa looked back at Daniel, who stared at them with empty eyes. Then she untied her catering apron and let it fall to the floor. "Okay, let's go." The three women walked out of the Ritz-Carlton together. A mother who'd fought for 10 years, a daughter who'd finally found her voice, and a woman who'd witnessed it all in silence. Behind them, they left a canceled wedding, a disgraced con artist, and a billionaire who'd learned too late that some things can't be controlled. As they stepped into the San Francisco sunshine, Emma stopped. "What now?" Diane smiled. Now you get to decide. For the first time in your life, everything is up to you." Emma looked at her mother, at Rosa, at the city stretching out before them, and she smiled. "Then let's start with coffee, and you can tell me everything. Every single thing that happened in the last 10 years. They walked down the street, three women starting over, while behind them, in the ballroom, Daniel Hartfield sat alone among the ruins of his carefully constructed world, finally understanding that control is just an illusion, and love, real love, can't be bought, manipulated, or destroyed. It only waits for the truth to set it free. Subscribe to our channel for more dramatic, emotional, and unforgettable stories. Turn on the bell icon so you never miss our next video. Like this video if it gave you goosebumps. Comment below. Where are you watching from? Have you ever witnessed a wedding go wrong? Team Emma or Team Daniel? Tell us what you think. What would you have done in Emma's place? Share this story with someone who loves powerful storytelling.